The wrench slipped from Sarah Chen's oil-stained fingers as she heard the commotion outside Miller's auto repair. Through the bay door, she could see a crowd gathering around something in the parking lot. Her stomach dropped when she recognized the sound, that wet, pained groaning that meant someone was hurt bad. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Sarah had been working at Miller's for 8 years. She knew every bolt, every engine quirk, every shortcut that kept the old shop running. But more than that, she knew the unwritten rule. Don't get involved. Keep your head down, fix the cars, collect your paycheck. Miller had made that crystal clear when he hired her as the first female mechanic he'd ever employed. You're here to turn wrenches, not play hero, he told her on day one. I don't need the liability. But Sarah Chen had never been good at following rules when someone needed help. She wiped her hands on her coveralls and stepped outside. The crowd parted slightly, revealing a massive man in leather lying motionless beside a gleaming Harley-Davidson. Blood pooled beneath his head, dark against the hot asphalt. His riding jacket was torn, revealing road rash that painted his arm in angry red streaks. Someone call 911. A woman screamed. Already did, another voice replied. Ambulance is 20 minutes out. 20 minutes. Sarah's eyes flicked to the injured biker's chest, barely rising and falling. His breathing was shallow, labored. She'd seen enough accidents growing up around her father's garage to know that 20 minutes might be too long. He's going into shock, she said, dropping to her knees beside him. The crowd buzzed nervously. Someone muttered, "What's that girl doing?" Sarah ignored them. She'd learned basic first aid from her paramedic brother, Danny, before he deployed overseas. Keep the airway clear. Elevate the legs. Apply pressure to bleeding wounds. Stop the shivering. She stripped off her work jacket and laid it over the biker's chest, then grabbed a shop rag to press against the head wound. Sir, can you hear me? You're going to be okay. Help is coming. The man's eyes fluttered open, steel gray, unfocused but alive. He tried to speak, blood frothing at the corner of his mouth. Don't talk, Sarah said gently. Just breathe. What's your name? Marcus, he whispered, so quiet she had to lean close to hear. Marcus, I'm Sarah. You had an accident, but you're going to be fine. I need you to stay with me, okay? That's when she heard the voice that made her blood run cold. Chen, what the hell do you think you're doing? Bob Miller stood in the doorway of his shop, his face red as a brake light. 58 years old, built like a beer barrel, with a temper that had driven away 3 mechanics in the past 2 years. Sarah was the only one who'd lasted, mainly because she needed the job more than she needed her pride. He's hurt, Mr. Miller. Someone has to help him. Someone has to help him. Miller mocked, stepping closer. And that someone is the paramedics, not my employee. Get back inside. His breathing is compromised. He could die. Not our problem. Miller's voice dropped to a hiss. I said, get back inside. Now. Sarah looked down at Marcus. His lips were turning blue. The crowd watched nervously, phones out, recording everything. She could feel their judgment, their expectation that she'd obey her boss and walk away. She pressed the rag firmer against his head wound. I'm not moving. Miller's face went from red to purple. Fine. Then you're fired. Get your hands off him and get off my property. The crowd gasped. Sarah felt every eye on her, but all she could see was Marcus's face growing paler by the second. Fire me if you want, she said quietly. But I'm not leaving him. She turned back to Marcus, ignoring Miller's sputtering rage. She checked his pulse, weak but steady. His breathing was still shallow. She needed to keep him conscious. Marcus, tell me about your bike, she said. It's beautiful. What year? 2019, he managed, his voice a little stronger. Street glide. Stock engine or modified? A ghost of a smile crossed his bloody lips. Nothing stock about her. I bet. You build her yourself? My brother and we run a shop. What's the shop called? Steel Brothers Customs. Sarah's heart stopped. Steel Brothers Customs. was legendary in their town. They built bikes for celebrities, customized rides that appeared in magazines. She'd driven past their shop 1,000 times, admiring the beautiful machines in the windows, but never daring to go inside. "You're Marcus Steele." He nodded weakly. "Yeah. And you're?" "Nobody special. Just a mechanic." "No," Marcus said, his eyes focusing on her face. "You're the mechanic who's saving my life." That's when Miller lost it. Completely. I said get away from him. He grabbed Sarah's arm, trying to yank her away from Marcus. "You're trespassing now. I'm calling the cops." Sarah shrugged him off. "Call them. Call whoever you want. I'm not moving." The crowd was getting larger. Someone had shared the video live on social media. "Female mechanic defies boss to save injured biker." The comments were pouring in, most of them supportive of Sarah. Miller saw the phones, saw the growing crowd, and his business instincts warred with his anger. Bad publicity was the last thing he needed. "Fine," he snarled. "But when this is over, you're done. 8 years, Chin. Gone. And don't expect a reference." Sarah didn't respond. She could hear sirens in the distance. Finally, Marcus was still conscious, still breathing. She'd done what she could. The paramedics arrived like a cavalry charge. Professional, efficient. They assessed Marcus quickly and loaded him onto a stretcher. Before they wheeled him away, he grabbed Sarah's wrist. "Steele Brothers Customs," he said urgently. "Ask for Jake. Tell him Marcus said to take care of you. Just focus on getting better." Sarah replied. "Promise me." "I promise." The ambulance pulled away, sirens wailing. The crowd began to disperse, but many people lingered, shaking Sarah's hand, patting her shoulder, telling her she did the right thing. Miller waited until the last stranger left, then walked over to Sarah. His face was calmer now, but his eyes were cold. "Clean out your locker," he said. "I want you gone in 10 minutes." Sarah nodded. She'd expected this. She walked back into the shop, her shop for 8 years, and began gathering her personal tools. Her father's wrench set, the precision instruments she'd bought herself, the photo of Danny in his army uniform that she kept taped inside her locker door. Tommy Rodriguez, the shop's other mechanic, approached her hesitantly. "Sarah, I'm sorry. This is messed up." "It's okay, Tommy." "No, it's not. You saved the guy's life." "Miller's an ass." Sarah smiled sadly. "Miller's the boss. He makes the rules. Maybe you're better off without this place." Sarah looked around the shop. It wasn't much. Outdated equipment, poor ventilation, a boss who treated her like a liability rather than an asset. But it had been steady work, decent pay, and in her small town, opportunities for female mechanics were scarce. "Maybe," she said, though her heart wasn't in it. She carried her toolbox to her 10-year-old Honda Civic, the same car she'd been driving since high school. As she loaded her tools in the trunk, she caught sight of herself in the reflection of the rear window. Oil-stained coveralls, grease under her fingernails, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked exactly like what she was, a working-class woman who'd just lost her job for doing the right thing. That evening, Sarah sat in her small apartment above Mrs. Patterson's garage, staring at her laptop screen. She'd uploaded her resume to every job site she could find, but the prospects were grim. The auto industry in their town was small, and Miller had connections everywhere. Word would get around that she was difficult, insubordinate, a liability. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Jake Steele. Marcus told me what you did. Can you come by the shop tomorrow? We need to talk." Sarah stared at the message for a long time. Steele Brothers Customs was in a different league than Miller's Auto Repair. They were artists, craftsmen, specialists in high-end custom work. What could they possibly want with a grease monkey like her? She texted back. "What time?" 10 a.m. Ask for Jake at the front desk. Sarah spent the rest of the evening researching Steele Brothers Customs online. The shop had started 15 years ago when Marcus and Jake Steele, two brothers from Detroit, had moved to town with nothing but talent and determination. They'd built their reputation one bike at a time, focusing on quality over quantity, art over mass production. Their clients included movie stars, professional athletes, and CEOs. Their bikes sold for $50,000 and up. Their waiting list was 6 months long. Sarah looked down at her calloused hands, at the scar on her thumb from a slip with a box cutter 3 years ago. What was she doing? She was a small-town mechanic who specialized in oil changes and brake jobs. She had no business walking into a place like Steel Brothers. But she'd promised Marcus. The next morning, Sarah put on her cleanest jeans and a button-down shirt that didn't have any visible stains. She drove across town to the Steel Brothers facility, a gleaming modern building that looked more like an art gallery than a motorcycle shop. The front lobby took her breath away. Custom bikes were displayed like sculptures, each one a masterpiece of chrome and steel. The receptionist, a young woman with purple hair and multiple piercings, looked up from her computer. "You must be Sarah. Jake's expecting you." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Jake Steele was younger than she'd expected, maybe 35, with Marcus's same steel gray eyes but a warmer demeanor. He was taller than his brother, leaner, with intricate tattoos covering both arms. "Sarah Chen," he said, standing up from behind a desk covered in technical drawings. "The woman who saved my brother's life. How is he?" "Concussion. Some stitches, road rash. He'll be fine, thanks to you." Jake gestured to a chair. "Marcus told me what happened. How that jackass fired you for helping him." Sarah shifted uncomfortably. "I knew the risks. Miller made his position clear from day one. His position was garbage. You did the right thing." Jake leaned forward. "Marcus also told me you knew his bike. Recognized the modifications. Asked good questions. I grew up around motorcycles. My dad had a shop before he died. Marcus did some research on you last night from his hospital bed. Found out you've been working on bikes since you were 12. Built your first engine at 14. Won a state championship in automotive technology in high school." Sarah flushed. "That was a long time ago. Talent doesn't age. Neither does character." Jake stood up. "Want to see the shop?" The workshop floor was immaculate. 15 custom bikes in various stages of completion, each one more beautiful than the last. The tools were precision instruments, the equipment state-of-the-art. Technicians moved with the focused intensity of surgeons. "We specialize in completely custom builds," Jake explained as they walked. "Every bike is one of a kind, built to the client's exact specifications. Frame geometry, engine tuning, paint, upholstery. Everything is bespoke." They stopped beside a partially assembled bike that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. The frame was polished to a mirror finish, the engine components arranged with mathematical precision. "This is going to a tech billionaire in Silicon Valley," Jake said. 200 horsepower, carbon fiber bodywork, electronics package that costs more than most people's cars. Sarah ran her eyes over the build, taking in the details. "The fuel injection mapping must be incredibly complex." "Exactly. That's where most shops would farm it out to a specialist. We do everything in-house." They continued the tour, Jake explaining the business, the clients, the challenges of running a high-end custom shop. Sarah listened, but part of her mind was elsewhere, imagining what it would be like to work on machines like these every day. Finally, they returned to Jake's office. He sat back down behind his desk, studying her with those penetrating gray eyes. "Sarah, I'm going to be direct. We need a senior technician. Someone with advanced engine tuning experience. Someone who can work independently on complex builds. Someone with the character to do the right thing even when it costs them." Sarah's heart started pounding. "Jake, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not qualified for this level of work. I do oil changes and brake jobs. This is..." She gestured toward the workshop. "This is art. You think Marcus and I started out building $100,000 bikes? 5 years ago, we were working out of a 2-bay garage, surviving on ramen noodles and determination. Skill can be taught. Character can't." "What would the job involve?" "Engine builds, performance tuning, electrical systems, suspension setup. We train you on our methods, send you to manufacturer courses, whatever you need." Starting salary is $75,000, plus bonuses based on shop performance. Sarah's head spun. $75,000 was more than double what Miller had been paying her. There's something else, Jake continued. Marcus and I have been talking about expansion, not just building bikes, but teaching others to build them. A school, maybe, for people who want to learn the craft properly. We want you to help develop the curriculum. Why me? Because yesterday you proved you're the kind of person we want representing our name. When it mattered, when there was pressure to walk away, you stayed. You put someone else's life ahead of your own job security. That's who we want on our team. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. For 8 years, she'd been treated like a liability, a necessary evil. Someone to be tolerated rather than valued. Now Jake Steele was offering her not just a job, but a career, a chance to grow, to learn, to become something more than she'd ever imagined. When would you want me to start? Jake smiled. How about now? Marcus is being discharged this afternoon. I thought we could surprise him. Sarah laughed, a sound of pure joy that echoed through the office. Let's do it. She called Tommy Rodriguez from Jake's office to tell him the shepherd news. Tommy whooped so loudly, she had to hold the phone away from her ear. Sarah, that's incredible. Steele Brothers? That's like going from community college to Harvard. I'm terrified, she admitted. You'll be amazing. And hey, Miller's been walking around here like he's got to stick up his ass all morning. I think he's realizing he made a huge mistake. That afternoon, Sarah was elbow deep in a engine rebuild when she heard the rumble outside. Not just one motorcycle, but many. She looked up from her work to see Jake grinning. Marcus is back, he said simply. They walked outside together. The parking lot was filling with motorcycles, dozens of them. Custom bikes, vintage Harleys, sport bikes, touring machines. Riders in leather vests dismounted, all wearing patches that read Steele Brothers Family or Custom Community or Riders United. Marcus Steele climbed off a gleaming black Harley, his head wrapped in bandages but his smile radiant. He spotted Sarah and walked over, followed by a steady stream of bikers. Sarah Chen, he called out, his voice carrying across the parking lot. The woman who saved my life. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Sarah felt overwhelmed as riders approached to shake her hand, to thank her, to welcome her to what they called the family. How did you know? She asked Marcus. Jake posted about it on our social media. Word spread fast in the riding community. These folks came from 3 states away just to meet you. A grizzled rider with a white beard stepped forward. Ma'am, I heard what you did yesterday. How you lost your job, standing up for one of us. That takes courage. Another rider, a woman in her 50s with intricate tattoos covering her arms, nodded. In our world, loyalty means everything. You showed loyalty to a stranger. That makes you family. The celebration continued for hours. Stories were shared, bonds were formed, and Sarah began to understand that she hadn't just found a new job, she'd found a community. As the sun set and the riders began to head home, Marcus pulled Sarah aside. There's one more thing, he said. Jake and I have been keeping something from you. Sarah's heart sank. What? Miller's Auto Repair is for sale. Has been for 6 months. Miller's been trying to unload it because the business is failing. Yesterday's incident with the social media attention just made things worse for him. I don't understand. Marcus grinned. The riding community raised some money today. Contributions from everyone who heard your story. Enough to make Miller an offer he can't refuse. An offer for what? The shop. All of it. Equipment building, customer base, everything. Marcus handed her an envelope. Congratulations, Sarah. You're now the owner of what used to be Miller's Auto Repair. Sarah's hand shook as she opened the envelope. Inside was a deed transfer, legal documents, and a cashier's check covering the full purchase price. I can't accept this, she whispered. You can and you will, said Jake, walking up behind them. Consider it a signing bonus. Your first task as our new partner is to run the satellite location. Steele Brothers East. Partner, 50-50 split on the East location profits. You handle the day-to-day operations, basic repairs, general automotive work. We'll send you our overflow custom projects and help you build your own high-end clientele. Sarah looked around at the faces surrounding her. Marcus with his bandaged head and grateful smile, Jake with his confidence in her abilities, and dozens of riders who'd driven hundreds of miles just to show their support for a woman they'd never met. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you all do this for me?" Marcus stepped closer, his voice serious. "Yesterday, when you were helping me, you asked what our shop was called. When I told you Steel Brothers Customs, you said you were nobody special, just a mechanic. But you were wrong." He gestured to the crowd around them. "Look at all these people. Look at what happened today. You're not just a mechanic, Sarah. You're proof that there are still people in this world who will risk everything to help a stranger. That's rare. That's precious. That's worth investing in." Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. In 24 hours, she'd gone from being fired and unemployed to being a business owner and partner in one of the most respected custom shops in the region. "I don't know what to say. Say you'll make us proud," said the woman with the tattoos. "Say you'll remember that when you help someone, you're not just helping them, you're showing the world what we could all be." 6 months later, Sarah stood in the bay of what was now called Chen's Automotive and Custom Works, watching her newest employee, Tommy Rodriguez, work on a brake job. She'd hired Tommy away from Miller's old shop, which had closed permanently after Miller's reputation never recovered from the viral video. The shop was busier than it had ever been. Word had spread throughout the riding community about Sarah's story, and bikers traveled from hundreds of miles away to have their machines serviced by the woman who stood up to her boss. But more than that, Sarah had become a symbol. Her story had inspired other mechanics, other working people, other women to stand up for what was right even when it was costly. The bell above the door chimed, and Marcus Steele walked in, his arm still in a sling but his smile as bright as ever. "How's business?" he asked. "Booming. I've got a 3-week backlog on custom work, and Jake wants me to hire 2 more technicians. Any regrets?" Sarah looked around her shop, at the state-of-the-art equipment, the organized workspace, the photos on the wall of all the beautiful machines they'd built. On the wall near her office hung a framed photo from that day 6 months ago. Hundreds of bikers gathered in the parking lot, all of them smiling, all of them united by the simple belief that doing the right thing mattered. "None," she said firmly. "Not a single one." Marcus nodded. "Good. Because Jake and I have been talking about opening another location. Interested in expanding?" Sarah laughed, the sound echoing through the garage that had become her kingdom. "Marcus Steele, I think that's the best idea you've ever had." Outside, the rumble of motorcycle engines filled the air as another group of riders pulled up for service. Sarah wiped her hands on her coveralls, clean ones now, with Chen's Automotive embroidered over the heart, and walked out to greet them. She'd learned something important over the past 6 months. Sometimes when you lose everything for doing the right thing, the universe finds a way to give you back something even better. And sometimes, when you think you're just helping one person, you're really building a family that will last forever. The engines rumbled like thunder, like applause, like the sound of justice finally finding its way home. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.